So, hello everybody, this is The Exchange. This happens every Tuesday at 3:30. Today we have Dr. Akanbi here talking about a little generational racism.
That's an alarming lead-in, but we'll move to the story where, my second story, where I am 30 and I am pregnant and I decide I want to stay fit. So I'm going to go to a water aerobic class. And so if you go to like a community water aerobic class, who do you think is in that class? What kind of, what you think? White, old women. Yes, old women, mainly old white women. Every now and again you get an older gentleman, but it's really good for people who are older individuals who, or anyone, but in particular a lot of older individuals will use it if they're recovering from a surgery or something like that. So I go to this class and everyone is like super excited, greeting me very well. Hey, how's it going? Again, I find myself being the only black person in the room, which is not unique for me. I often find myself in those circles. So we're in the water now. Okay? Not important, but kind of important. So we're in the water, and then everyone's greeting me, and there's this one lady who is especially interested in me. So she's talking to me, and she's asking me all these questions, and we're having all of these, what do you do, where you're from, you can swim, we're all these types of questions. And so after us talking for about 5 minutes, she goes, wow, you speak very well. Which I thought was very strange because, again, I'm a full adult. I'm not one. I got a hold of, words and stuff. So I thought that was strange that she would say that. So that was the first one that was kind of one of those that goes, okay. And so we talked a little bit more. Again, we're in the water. We're not like at a table over coffee. We're just moving in the water, full workout, get it going. Big building, because I'm great. And so we're working out again, and after a few conversations, she comes back to me and she goes, man, you're really easy to talk to. I'm glad we talked. I'm like, thanks. Forgetting about the fact that she told me that I spoke very well. But she wraps it back around and goes, I wouldn't have been able to do this decades ago because I used to be a racist. And in that moment, I was taken back to this childhood moment of, okay, all of these questions again. When you say to someone that tells you they used to be a racist, what am I supposed to do in this situation? What are my next steps? Do I validate her and say, good for you? Do I ask her, how do you know you're not racist anymore? Like, what do I do? All of these things are running through my head as to how do I navigate these next steps. And so I think she saw I was just quiet. And I go, okay. And that was like what I said. And so in that moment, I also realized for her what was happening. And it was important for, this little interaction was going to be very important for both of us. How I responded to her was going to be really important. And whatever she said next was going to be really important. So I just went with a good old fashioned, okay, And so in that moment, I realized a couple of things. The first thing I realized is that she was pretty proud of herself for not being racist anymore. So I don't want to poo-poo on that. The other thing is this is another woman who had had a very different experience with race than I had. This woman was in her 70s, 80s, and so she definitely had a different experience with race than I had. So it was one of those moments again to where, okay, how do we navigate this? How do we navigate this conversation on race? And so I said okay, and we continued to talk a little bit more, and she ended up asking me if I wanted to go shopping with her, and we became good friends. But it was, again, those moments when I got home, I thought about, man, this is another instance to where I had to try to navigate, how do I feel about this conversation? How do I navigate race, especially in a generational sense? Again, my parents had made me feel those same things, who loved me very, very much, where I had to navigate race. And here I am in another situation at 30 where I'm having to try to navigate race again. And so I realized that these conversations are probably going to continue to happen for the rest of my life, and I think it's good. The dialogue is there. People can be very well intended. Now, her comment on I speak very well was very well intended, however, not necessarily considerate, because what does that mean in relation to what? Like a 1-year-old, a puppy, like not necessarily well considerate. And then this other piece about, I used to be a racist, again, her intention was to make me feel comfortable. I'm a good person. I used to be racist. I'm very happy that we're in a space in the world where we can have this dialogue. But then again, if I was not ready to hear that she wasn't considered as to what that was gonna do for me. What if I would have like splashed out of that water and was like, get me out of here. So again, people can be very well intended and not necessarily considerate. But I think you need to keep that in mind, but at the same time, be kind of prepared to how do you navigate that. It's okay, it doesn't mean that you need to go past your feelings, and I encourage you to feel whatever you feel, but take a moment and think about it. So people can be have kind intentions, but they may not necessarily be considerate. And those are my two stories.
Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything like that they have for?
Questions, comments, concerns? You guys want to hear me rap?
Yes.
So my rap name is Killer K. I'm not prepared for that. Give me a couple weeks. Any questions? Similar experiences? Thoughts?
Have you noticed that considerate or that well-intentioned but not considerate is in your experience, has that been mainly generational that you've noticed, or just in those two stories right there was the generational component that was the theme, and I'm just wondering if that is something that you've experienced more than not.
I think I've seen it in those, but it's all kinds of things. I see it all the time with my husband, and he is actually younger than me. I see it in a lot of things. Now, my husband is Nigerian, and I'm Black American, so there is a lot of that happens often. So it's not just exclusive to generation, but I have seen it a lot in different generations. Yeah.
I just have a comment that I really enjoyed that because as a child of interracial parents, I feel like that I have a lot of experiences like that, and sometimes you're like, do I be polite? Do I school you? Do I yell? So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also a product of a biracial relationship. I think that, it's really appreciative that you can share your story like that. And I especially, like when you were telling us your stories, it reminded me of the generational thing that I had experienced was, like with hair, especially in the African American community. When I was younger and, we were little kids on the bus, people would touch my hair and I wouldn't think anything of it. They were just touching my hair. But then when I get home and I would tell my parents, how's it going? Or somebody, grabbed my hair and was playing with my curls. My parents were like, oh no, don't let them touch your hair like that. You're not a dog and stuff like that. So definitely understanding that there was a different switch to it.
Yeah. And I think you're always very interested in the things that are opposite of you. If I ever wore my hair out, you guys would probably be like, whoa, because it's very long, it's very, very, very big. And it takes a lot of time to do, that's why I don't wear it down. But I always used to look at people that had straight hair, like people that used to you wake up and your hair is just straight, like you don't have to flat iron it, you don't have to do anything, and it's just like straight. They're like, yeah. I'm like, what? I would love to have that. So I think you're always very interested in the things that are different from you, and I think we shouldn't shy away from those conversations, but I think that there has to be some sort of conversation, like just walking up and patting anyone's head, it's not okay. Like it's just not okay across the board. But I think if people know that you're genuinely interested and you don't mean harm anything, like that lady, she didn't mean harm. She was very happy at the place she was in her life. And so who am I at like 30 to just be like, don't you be happy, or you can't feel happy about you when you used to be a racist. Like, no, I think that in that moment, and I ended up having a ton of productive conversations. I ended up having people like, I got a lot of friends that are in their 70s and 80s as a result of this talk. They were very interested after I had my baby. I went away for a little while to obviously take care of my baby. When I came back, I'm like, oh, we missed ya. So I mean, it's one of those situations to where I think if a situation can be off-putting and it can ruin you and ruin the potential of that relationship, or you can try and navigate it and see see if it's worth it. Not every relationship is gonna be worth having. It's okay. Alright. I promise next time I do something like this, I'll have a rap prepared.
Thank you.